Fuckface, Binface, ladies and gentlemen. That's the name of tonight's segment, and we're going to talk about tonight on the report from Tiger Mountain. Stick around and listen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nigel Farage. How can I say it? I like the man. I like the Roy. You know, to quote Bert Newton about Muhammad Ali, I like the Roy. And, he is a great English politician. And, he's maybe not quite as good as Rupert Lowe, who from Restore, who's talking more about remigration. But Nigel Farage, in my opinion, is what England should vote for next, because I believe if we are to move to, say, where Restore is, say, Rupert Lowe, I believe it's important to have an intermediary stage, because it will be a lot more painful for society in general to jump to something far more radical of the Restore variety. So I think Nigel Farage is the perfect intermediary meal, ladies and gentlemen, and he should be the Prime Minister of the UK. I mean, he sounds like the Prime Minister of the UK. I mean, after Starmer, who, is possibly the worst British Prime Minister I've ever, in living memory, terrible, just awful. And now, there was some scandal recently where Nigel Farage had received $5 million from some vaguely nefarious person or somebody with shady background or whatever. Now, this is a classic setup situation. So, you've got somebody who's running for Parliament, who's a big leader, and so you send along basically a double agent who's got a shady past, who says to them, hey, you want $5 million? And I mean, not many people would say no to that. And maybe you don't necessarily do your due diligence. You don't necessarily, when someone's giving you $5 million, you don't necessarily, call up a private detective and go, hang on a minute, just make sure this person, is completely kosher or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, pardon the pun. And, so I think something like that has gone on. They've, sent this guy to donate money. And you know what? The first thing, no one cares. No one cares. I mean, if this guy is dodgy and he's given Nigel Farage money, good as far as I'm concerned. Who cares? $5 million is $5 million, or pounds. It would be even better. That's about 10 million Australian dollars. That's great. I mean, who cares if it's dodgy money? I don't care. And I think that's why he resigned, and he's running for a re-election in his own seat at Clacton. So, now what has the left done? Has the left put together a really dynamic left-wing populist, who really talks about the working class, who really talks about left-wing issues and embracing diversity? Are they running a really dynamic candidate? Is Labor doing that? No, they're not. Why aren't they doing that? Because, first of all, they don't have one. If they had one, he would have replaced Starmer a long time ago, you would think, anyway. So they're running somebody called Binface. Now, I'm going to need to refer to my notes, ladies and gentlemen. So Binface. Binface was a reject from Doctor Who, basically. He was a 70s Doctor Who character who's been rejected. And he's decided to make a run against Nigel Farage. First of all, I'm trying to make it funny. The first thing about Binface is it's not fucking funny. I mean, maybe it's funny for 15 minutes. It's maybe funny for 15 minutes, and you might have a clip of him going, oh, I'm going to take on Nigel Farage. It's funny for 15 minutes, but it's already like 2 or 3 days, maybe a week since I heard about Binface. It's no longer funny. It's stupid. And they're not running anyone else. The Tories aren't running, so it's just Binface versus Farage. It's ridiculous. And Binface is not actually somebody from Doctor Who got rejected in the 1970s from Tom Baker era. It's actually a lefty comedian cunt called Jonathan David Harvey, ladies and gentlemen. So he's just some unfunny turd who thinks it will be amusing to run. And I don't know, he might get 10% of the vote, 20% of the vote, because there's probably that group of people who don't like Nigel Farage to vote for the essentially just a candidate that's a joke, that's not Nigel Farage. But Nigel Farage is going to win this by-election, and then he will continue his run, and hopefully he will end up Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And then, once we have that, then, a Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe can fight it out at the next general election. And if the people want a more radical solution, they will go Rupert Lowe. And if they're happy with Nigel Farage, maybe they'll stick with Nigel. I quite like Nigel. I met him at one of his talks he gave here and got a little photograph with him somewhere and, went and shook his hand, which is all very nice. So I'm a big fan of Nigel Farage. And I'm not a big fan of this ridiculous Doctor Who, I tell you what, with Doctor Who, with woke Doctor Who, on the ropes at the moment, maybe Binface can, go over there and reboot the series or something. But he doesn't belong to politics, and that joke, to quote Morrissey, isn't funny anymore.